Maybach today is known as the famous luxury spin-off of a luxury brand, Mercedes-Benz. But how did it come about? What about its namesake? Wilhelm Maybach, the son of a carpenter and his housewife, was born in Heilbronn, Baden-Württemberg in 1846. He was one of 4 brothers. His family relocated from Lowenstein, near Heilbronn, to Stuttgart when he was 8 years old, a city that would become one of the hearts of the German automobile industry. Maybach began his technical education in a vocational school for young people without means after he was orphaned at the age of 10. Maybach enrolled after relatives informed him of his parents' deaths, and a philanthropic institution in Reutlingen accepted him as a student. Gustav Werner, the school's founder and director, recognized Maybach's technical aptitude and encouraged him to pursue it by sending him to the school's engineering workshop. Maybach was 15 years old in 1861 when he decided to pursue a profession in industrial design and enrolled in supplementary physics and mathematics lessons at Reutlingen's public high school. He was a certified designer working on stationary engines by the time he was 19 years old. Gottlieb Daimler, his workshop manager at the time, noticed his achievements and hired him as his principal assistant, thereby starting his professional life. Maybach accompanied Daimler to Maschinenbau-Gesellschaft Karlsruhe AG, a large locomotive maker in Karlsruhe, in 1869. Daimler was a member of the executive committee where they spent many late nights debating new engines, pump, lumber machinery and metalworking innovations. Later in 1872, Daimler relocated to Cologne's Deutsche AG Gasmotorenfabrik, the world's largest stationary gas engine producer at the time. Part owner Nikolaus Otto concentrated on engine development. With Daimler, Maybach was hired as the company's chief designer. Working with Otto, Maybach's genius would result in wonder for the first time. Nikolaus Otto patented the Otto cycle engine in 1876. With intake, compression, power and exhaust strokes, it was a 4-stroke cycle gas internal combustion engine. After one of Otto's more than 25 patents on this engine was challenged and overturned, Daimler and Maybach were able to manufacture their high-speed engine based on the idea. They constructed a forerunner to the modern gasoline engine in 1885, which they later installed in a 2-wheeler, the first internal combustion motorbike, and a stagecoach and a boat the following year. Because of its similarity to a giant pendulum clock, Daimler dubbed it the grandfather clock engine. Of course, it's hard to understate the importance of this innovation, as the gasoline engine would go on to dominate transportation in the 20th century. Maybach's inventions were already being regarded as some of the finest automobiles of the late 19th century. He became known as the King of the Designers in France's early automobile industry, where he was recognized as the backbone of the industry after he inspired many French entrepreneurs to start their own. Soon after building the gasoline engine, the two ultimately decided to start their own business and established Daimler Motoren Gesellschaft, DMG, or Daimler Motor Corporation in English. Daimler purchased land at Cannstadt's Seelberg Hills to house the facility. Because Cannstadt's mayor objected to the workshop being in town, the workshop was located on Ludwig Route 67, some distance from the town. It cost 30,200 Goldmarks, the currency of the German Empire at the time, and covered 2,903 square meters. Initially, they employed 23 individuals. The business difficulties were handled by Daimler, while the design department was handled by Maybach. The car was simply called the Daimler Motorized Carriage. This internal combustion carriage was less remarkable than later autos, with less than 1 horsepower, 4 wheels, the appearance of a stagecoach, a midship grandfather clock engine, and speeds of less than 20 miles per hour, but it was nonetheless one of the most important automobiles ever created. This achievement by itself was not enough to keep the company going, however, because neither the engine sales nor the worldwide earnings from their patents were bringing in enough money. They decided to sell their patents. The company was also taken public after the financiers Max von Duttenhofer and William Lorenz, both former weapons maker, were brought in. They were affiliated with Kilian von Steiner, the proprietor of a German investment bank. On November 28, 1890, the corporation was re-established. Some German historians have referred to it as a pact with the devil, as Daimler and Maybach's subsequent decade was chaotic. DMG continued to grow, selling engines from Moscow to New York, adding stationary engine production capacity, but the conviction that automotive production would not be profitable persisted. Maybach designed an entirely new type of racing car between April and October 1900, which would be known as the Mercedes 35 horsepower when it was debuted in 1902. Emil JELLINEK, a successful Austrian dealer and racing driver on the French Riviera who admired Maybach's craftsmanship, agreed to buy 36 cars for 550,000 Goldmarks if Maybach could develop a magnificent race car for him according to his specifications. The prototype was completed in December 1900 and went on to win a series of races in 1901. Mercedes Jellinek, Emil's 10-year-old daughter, was given the name Daimler Mercedes for the engine. The car was purchased in great numbers by European high society, resulting in a commercial success that persuaded corporate leaders that autos had a future. DMG quickly grew in size and number of people as production climbed dramatically. In June 1902, DMG formally registered the Mercedes trademark. Internal politics, however, would cause him to leave DMG after they demoted him, and he then went on to ring up an old contact of his, Count Ferdinand Von Zeppelin, the designer of the famous Zeppelin airship. Maybach first met Count Ferdinand Von Zeppelin in 1900, who was looking to enhance the engines on the Zeppelin LZ-1 airship. While at DMG, Maybach constructed various engines based on designs of a 150 horsepower unit developed by his son Carl. Count Zeppelin sought to sell his LZ-3 and LZ-4 models to the government in 1908. LZ-4, however, exploded against a row of trees on the 5th of August after attempting an emergency landing when its engines failed. After the catastrophe, a donation campaign raised 6.25 million Goldmarks, indicating that the airship project was far from over. The Luftschiffbau Zeppelin GmbH, which manufactured the Zeppelin airships, was created by Count Zeppelin to better handle the project. Maybach was unable to join the new company for a period of time due to his ongoing legal battle with DMG, so Carl took his position. On March 23, 1909, a contract was struck that established a subsidiary of Luftschiffbau Zeppelin at Bissingen, Württemberg. Carl Maybach was the technical manager and Wilhelm Maybach was the technical assistant. The early prototypes had a top speed of 72 km per hour or 45 miles per hour. Following the First World War, the Versailles Treaty of 1919 forbade Germany from producing airships. Thus, Maybach shifted its focus to high-speed diesel engines for naval and railroad applications, as well as gasoline engines for automobiles, but not full autos. For cost considerations, many minor German automakers constructed their own engines, and only the Dutch Spyker company was interested in using Maybach engines. The contract was rejected by Wilhelm Maybach because he could not agree to the terms. Instead, he chose to construct whole autos, and in 1921, the factory began producing Maybach Limousines. Thus began the history of Maybach-branded automobiles. The first of these would be the Maybach W3. It was well received by the press and public since it matched the Maybach quality standard with new technical subtleties, delivering 70 horsepower at 2,200 RPM. The chassis alone cost 24,000 Reichmarks, with an additional 15 to 25,000 Reichmarks, depending on the type of body to be placed. To give you a sense of scale, the average annual pay in 1924 was 1,233 Reichmarks. The most impressive of Maybach's works during this time would be the laying of groundwork for the 1932 Maybach DS-8 Zeppelin, a car that would see completion after his death. The DS-8 had an 8-litre V12 engine that produced 149 kilowatts, 200 brake horsepower at 3,200 RPM, making it one of the most powerful production automobiles in the world at the time. A top speed of 171 km per hour, 106 miles per hour was conceivable, depending on the weight of the coachwork. He chose to name it after Count Zeppelin as a mark of his engineering brilliance with airships. He had long since passed away in 1917, just before World War I ended. After Wilhelm Maybach's passing in 1929, Maybach Motorenbauer, his company, was continued in Friedrichshafen by his son Carl Maybach. Almost all of the engines for tanks and half-tracks used by the German military forces during World War II were built and designed by Maybach starting around 1935. These included the famous Panther I, Tiger I and Tiger II heavy tanks. Due to post-war limitations and the USSR's stripping of industrial capacity, it began producing a full range of diesel engines after 1945. Maybach began building huge Daimler-Benz engines in Friedrichshafen under a licensing deal in the early 1960s. It was during that time that the company was acquired and merged into the Mercedes-Benz brand. The Maybach name, however, would not be used until 1998 when Mercedes decided to use it for their line of ultra-luxury cars. Mercedes-Benz enlisted the help of celebrities like Maybach heir Ulrich Schmid-Maybach and golfer Nick Faldo to advertise the new Maybach line, which debuted with the 57 and 62 models. However, due to low sales in the financial crisis of 2007-2008, Daimler AG, Mercedes-Benz's parent company, conducted a thorough review of the Maybach division, enlisting the help of Aston Martin to engineer and style the next generation of Maybach models, as well as the next generation of Lagondas, Aston Martin's own ultra-luxury marquee. Only 44 Maybachs have been sold in the United States as of October 2011. Amidst various proposals, the decision was taken to simply discontinue Maybach. Dieter Zetsche, the CEO of Daimler, said in November 2011 that the Maybach brand would be phased out in 2012 to make way for the new Mercedes-Benz S-Class cars. Up until 2013, Maybach Limousines were still being sold, but after that the term Maybach was no longer used. It wouldn't last long, however. Daimler stated in November 2014 that the Maybach name would be revived as a sub-brand of the Mercedes-Benz S-Class, W222, positioned as an upscale counterpart of the sportier Mercedes AMG sub-brand. The flagship Mercedes Maybach S600 was unveiled at an automobile event in Los Angeles, California and Guangzhou, China in advance of its April 2015 introduction. Admittedly, at a smaller scale than earlier, the Maybach name continues as a representative of the very best Mercedes-Benz can do. Having the Maybach brand name on your side is a claim to fame unlike any other, as Wilhelm Maybach is still regarded as one of the people who gave rise to the modern automobile by creating its very basics before Henry Ford did. Have you already heard of Wilhelm Maybach? Are there any other details you'd like to add to this video? Share in the comments below, and if you'd like to see more inspiring business videos, then make sure to check out our channel.